Whether you're a banker in London staring down a brutal 60-hour week of portfolio management, a university student in Toronto feeling the absolute crush of upcoming finals, or an academic in Sydney painstakingly trying to get that massive research paper published, we all share one universal truth. Mastering your daily habits is literally the foundation of your success. We constantly feel like we need to overhaul our entire lives to get real results. But in this explainer, we're diving into James Clear's groundbreaking framework to see how microscopic, tiny changes actually lead to truly remarkable outcomes.
Let's kick things off with a mathematical reality that completely shatters the myth of massive action. We always convince ourselves that massive success requires massive, earth-shattering effort. But look at this. If you get just 1% better every day for one single year, the math dictates that you end up 37 times better by the end of that year. For the finance professionals listening, think of this exactly like the compound interest of self-improvement. Your daily habits are the interest that accrues. It seems totally invisible on day 1, day 2, or even day 20, but over a year, it's exponential. On the flip side, if you get 1% worse each day, you decline nearly down to absolute zero.
And this mathematical reality forms the core philosophy of James Clear's incredibly influential framework, Atomic Habits. Now, the word atomic here, it doesn't just mean small. It means the fundamental, single, irreducible unit of a much larger system. Just as individual atoms bond together to form complex molecules, these tiny, seemingly insignificant daily routines act as the atomic building blocks of your entire life. It's a massive paradigm shift. It completely flips the script from, I need to change my whole life today, to, I just need to optimize my morning routine. These tiny habits stack up to create incredible, unstoppable power and compound growth.
To really picture this, consider the British cycling team. For decades, they were notoriously average. They had won almost nothing on the global stage. Then, Dave Brailsford took over and instituted this strategy of searching for a tiny margin of improvement in absolutely everything they did. He didn't just look at bike tires. We're talking testing entirely new massage gels for muscle recovery. They actually brought in a top-tier surgeon to teach the riders the absolute best hand-washing techniques to avoid catching a cold during the season. They figured out the optimal pillows and mattresses for each rider's sleep. They even went so far as to paint the inside of their team truck bright white. Why? Just so they could spot tiny specks of dust that might subtly degrade the highly tuned bike mechanics. Sounds almost absurd, right? But the result of stacking hundreds of these 1% improvements was that they transformed from remarkably ordinary athletes into Olympic champions and completely dominant Tour de France winners.
So the crucial point we take from this is that your goals do not drive long-term success. Your systems do. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Goals are just about the results you want to achieve, but systems are about the meticulous processes that lead to those results. To the university student, wanting an A on your final is a goal, but if your study system is broken, you're just not going to hit it. To the academic, wanting to publish a peer-reviewed paper is a goal, but writing exactly 200 words every single morning before you even glance at your email, now that is a system. You don't need to completely overhaul who you are. You just need to build a fundamentally better system.
So here is our playbook to build that exact system. First, we'll uncover the habit loop, and then we'll dive right into the 4 laws of behavior change. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. Section 1, the habit loop, the 4 stages of behavior.
Before we can genuinely change our behavior, we have to understand how a habit forms in the brain. Every single habit you have, good or bad, boils down to a 4-step neurological feedback loop. It kicks off with a cue, which is a trigger that gets your brain to initiate a behavior. That cue triggers a craving, which is your underlying motivation or desire to change your internal state. This craving leads directly to a response, which is the actual habit or action you perform. And finally, that response delivers a reward, satisfying the craving and essentially teaching your brain to remember this exact cycle for next time. Why does our brain do this? To save cognitive energy. It wants to automate as much as possible. Say your cue is hitting a frustrating stumbling block on a massive financial model. Your craving is wanting to relieve that intense frustration. The response? You pick up your phone to scroll social media, and the reward is that temporary relief from the difficult task. Boom, the loop is complete and a habit is born.
Law 1. Make it obvious. Designing your cues.
To hack that very first step of our loop, the cue, we need to consciously manipulate our environment. A highly effective way to do this is a technique called habit stacking. Instead of pairing a fragile new habit with a vague time or location, you tether it to something you already do effortlessly every single day. The formula is beautifully simple. After my current habit, I will do my new habit. So for an academic looking to stay centered during a chaotic day of research, you might commit to this. Immediately after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for exactly 1 minute. You already pour that coffee every day without fail. Now, the coffee is your obvious cue. Or for the university students struggling with constant distractions, after I open my laptop in the library, I will immediately put my phone in my backpack. You're designing an obvious cue that makes the right behavior practically automatic.
Law 2. Make it attractive. Engineering desire. Let's tackle that second phase of the loop, the craving. If you want a behavior to actually stick, you've got to make it incredibly appealing. Habits are essentially a dopamine-driven feedback loop. And here is an absolutely fascinating quirk of human biology. Dopamine spikes not just when you experience pleasure, but when you simply anticipate it. It's the expectation of the reward that truly gets us to act. Because of this, we can use a strategy called temptation bundling to make a difficult habit practically irresistible. You basically pair an action you really want to do with an action you really need to do. Say you're a busy investment banker who loves checking sports scores, but you desperately need to exercise to manage stress. Your strict rule could be, I am only allowed to check Sky Sports after I do 10 burpees. You are creatively bundling that deep temptation with the physical effort. You're actively engineering your own desire.
Law 3. Make it easy. Reducing friction. Now, what's really interesting about the response phase, the physical execution of the habit, is that human nature violently defaults to the path of least resistance. We're evolutionarily wired to conserve energy, so if a habit feels hard, you simply won't do it. The secret weapon here is the 2-minute rule. Often we fail because we try to do way too much way too soon. We tell ourselves, I'm going to study for 3 hours straight tonight. But the mental friction of a 3-hour block is just too high for the brain to accept. Instead, you scale down any new habit until it can be done in under 120 seconds. Study for 3 hours becomes open my textbook. Run 3 miles becomes tie my running shoes. It sounds like a silly mental trick, but the profound psychological goal here is to master the art of simply showing up. You can't optimize a habit that doesn't exist yet. For the university student trying to write a massive 20-page thesis, your goal isn't to write a full chapter today. Your 2-minute goal is just to outline one single paragraph. Make the barrier to entry so remarkably easy that you can't possibly say no.
Law 4. Make it satisfying. Closing the loop. Finally, to ensure the behavior actually happens again, we must close the neurological loop. The first 3 laws increase the odds you'll do a habit this time. The 4th law increases the odds you'll do it next time, because what is immediately rewarded is repeated. Consider the totally fascinating story of a rookie stockbroker named Trent Dursmid. He worked in a relatively ordinary suburb, yet he built incredible success simply by placing 2 jars on his desk every morning. One jar held exactly 120 paper clips. The second jar was completely empty. After every single sales call he made, he picked up 1 paperclip from the full jar and moved it over to the empty jar. He didn't stop until all 120 paperclips were moved. That incredibly simple visual measure provided an immediate feeling of progress and intense satisfaction after every grueling cold call. The result? Just 18 months later, he brought $5 million to the firm and was earning a massive 6-figure salary.
You can easily replicate this feeling of progress in your own life by using a habit tracker. It obviously doesn't have to be paper clips. It could be a dedicated workout log or just marking a big, bold X on a wall calendar. Doing this gives your brain a quick hit of pleasure. It provides clear, undeniable visual proof that you're moving in the right direction. This is exceptionally powerful for high achievers. Academics waiting long months to get a paper published, or bankers waiting an entire year for their performance bonus, you guys constantly live in a state of delayed gratification. A habit tracker injects immediate satisfaction into the daily grind, which is absolutely necessary to wire that habit into your brain permanently.
And you can use this exact same framework to break your bad habits by simply inverting these 4 laws. Want to stop scrolling your phone while studying? Make it invisible by tossing it in another room. Make it unattractive by reframing how it actively hurts your academic goals. Make it difficult by installing website blockers. And make it unsatisfying by setting up an accountability partner who you literally have to pay if you fail. It's the ultimate control panel for your behavior. But here is the real secret of this entire system: identity-based habits. True behavior change is actually identity change. When you focus solely on outcomes, you fail. When you focus on identity, you succeed. Every single time that university student opens their textbook, they are casting a vote for the identity of a diligent, focused scholar. Every time the busy banker does those morning burpees, they're casting a vote for being a disciplined athlete. Every small habit is a suggestion to yourself that says, hey, maybe this is who I am.
The holy grail of self-improvement is never a single miraculous overnight transformation. It is just 1,000 atomic habits stacking up layer by layer, vote by vote, until the system works for you completely on autopilot. So as you look at your own demanding lives, your massive portfolios, your upcoming exams, your complex research, I want to leave you with this question. What tiny 1% change will you start compounding today? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I challenge you to cast a vote for your new identity and build your first atomic habit right now.